Eric, do you see a continued and growing demand for custom calculated benchmarks as the local market evolves?
We think that indices and indexing is only taking off now or in the last few years in the region. So therefore, we're very positive and optimistic about how we can deepen our role in this as well. The DFM General Index is just a start, but just to give you an example, DFM is embracing ESG related product introductions as well. We've started doing that by issuing supervisory guidelines or guidelines for listed companies, for example. ESG index is also something that we're looking at. And we think that themed or niche indices really are part of our future as well. So with the introduction, for example, of the DFMGI index, we've also started developing indices on sectors. Now that offers the possibility in the future to work with asset managers to introduce products like ETFs, like ETPs on these sub indices. So I think from where we stand, we see this as a very positive development, and we see a lot of opportunities in this space.
Finally, Charbel, can you talk to us about the growth and innovation around the passive space in the Middle East?
Sure. Look, I think our investment leadership and our investment thought leadership that happened around passive versus active took some time. I think we as an index providers are a big advocate of passive. I think if I look at the world map today, probably the US or North America is currently at 50-50 on passive versus active, which was not the case 20 years ago. Asia Pacific is around 60-40 or 70-30 between active still dominant to 30. Here in this part of the world, I think 10 years ago it was 98.8% active. And I think today we're at around 85 to 90% still active and the rest is passive. Look, it's a big advocation. I think people started to realize that passive gives you performance, gives it to you at a much cheaper rate than active. And I don't want to bash active because there are two ways in it, but we have what we call SPIVA, which is S&P Index versus active. And the real thought behind it is to show on an annual basis what is the percentage of active managers beating a benchmark. We just launched ours for MENA last week, and I think 65 to 70% of active managers do fail in a 1 year period to beat the benchmark. Now, those who end up beating that benchmark are not the same managers that last year beat that same benchmark. So to really pick a winner on the active side has becoming more and more difficult. You add on top of that the costs and the fees that active managers do charge because they have a wider cost. But if you look at the passive, all you have to do is just mimic the index performance of an S&P 500, of a DFMGI, and that performance on a steady, it's slow and steady, it will give you the performance that you need at a much cheaper rate. So we are big advocates of passive. In all my meetings, all we talk about is while you still want to have an active allocation, you should start considering more and more passive into your portfolios. And now you've got another step, which is, we call the factor indices or the thematic indices, or that gives you an active strategy within a passive structure. So, you've got all that now, so people need to start using it more as tactical tools into their investment portfolios.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today and sharing your insights.